Hello, everyone. I am very sparkly today. I hope everyone finds this in good health. I'm sure nobody has actually shown up yet, but this shouldn't be a super duper long wrap up video, mainly because I didn't have a lot of time to read this week. I'm not sparkly for no reason. Today was my poll showcase, which was a lot of fun. Nice to see our work finally come together all at the end there. Um, but it does mean that my focus hasn't really been on reading, and I read in total 3 books this week, and only one manga in those 3 books. So I'm not sure if people are going to be super duper interested in the wrap up this week, but hopefully I have a little bit to say, then I can go to bed, wash some of this glitter off because I have glitter everywhere. And get ready for bed because I've got work tomorrow. Look at my beautiful pole bruise. I swear I'm not inflicting too much damage on myself. Although those who have been hanging around, my friends, and those who know my pole struggles will know that I do often come up black and blue at the end of it. But so rather than spend too much time on that, I'm going to jump straight into my first novel. I know there's only one person watching so far. That's okay. Oh, now there's 2. Welcome, welcome. But not super duper stressful this week. And I didn't even have time to come in and do my banners or anything. I literally just got home. So apologies. But so the first book that I read this week was a novel. I think it's a young adult novel. Hi, Erin. Welcome to the stream. As always, I really appreciate you popping in. But the first book that I read this week was a novel, a young adult novel, I think it's technically classified as. This is a book that I personally... Hi, Luke. Welcome to the stream. I hope you enjoy whilst you're here. But this one I picked up at a used book sale or like the book bazaar. I kind of picked it up because I liked the cover. I liked the color of the cover even, not even necessarily the cover itself. But I flipped through it and it was really interesting. It appealed to me in an unusual way, and I haven't ever think I've read anything quite like this. So the first novel that I read was the selected works of T.S. Spivet by Reef Larson. This is a it's a young adult book about a 12-year-old boy who lives on a ranch in Montana. His dad's like a classic cowboy, very emotionally distant and unavailable. His mother is a scientist who is just absolutely obsessed with discovering this particular beetle, which we're not even sure if it exists. His older sister has dreams of becoming, rich and famous and escaping the doldrum life on the ranch. And unfortunately, his younger brother has died just a couple months before the setting of this book. But T.S. himself is a very interesting character. He's not only is this a story about him growing up and becoming more confident in himself and finding his place in his family and in society at large, but also coming to terms with the guilt of his brother's death. And yeah, just realizing who cares about him versus who he thinks cares about him at the beginning of the book. So our main character, T.S., is an absolutely brilliant scientific mind, very analytical. He's a cartographer, a self-proclaimed cartographer, and he maps out everything around him, his whole world around him. And so that's how he understands the world. You could definitely make an argument as to whether or not T.S. is on the autism spectrum. There's certain things that you could definitely point toward Hopefully, I am back. There's been a lot of storms here. It's been very rainy, so apologies in advance if there's issues. There obviously was issues because that recent rainstorm knocked me out. I'm not sure whether or not this is even streaming to the YouTube right now. We will have to see. Just want to check whilst this is all going on. Yep. Okay. So back to what I was talking about. So TS is, and if it will focus, is a pretty interesting character. So the whole premise of the book is that he has won a prestigious award for his illustrations by the Smithsonian. He has done a lot of like natural history and animal illustrations for his mother and for just general interest. And one of his mother's associates, a fellow scientist, actually submit them to the Smithsonian for this award without telling them that he's a 12-year-old boy. And he won and won a very prestigious spot, a job there in Washington, and providing more illustrations for the museum and the association at large. And so rather than tell his parents and rather than get them involved in that sort of stuff, he decides to travel from Montana to Washington, D.C. by himself. So it's a road trip. It's a road trip or an adventure. It's sort of not really the same generalization, but it reminds me of like a Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn kind of like travel across the country, go on an adventure. And this poor kid is going through it. It's also a little bit odd in that the way that T.S. talks and his home life and things like that, it took a little while for me to recognize that this is set in modern day. I mean, modern for the day. This came out in 2009. Not a super new book, but I felt like this could have been set in the 50s. It's not like immediately obvious. Luke has asked which state that do I live in. I'm going to just generally say that I'm in Australia. It's pretty late for where I am. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm not in the US, and I prefer not to give out my exact location, but I am in Australia, which will give you some kind of inclination of where I am. But what really like popped out to me with this book is that when I flicked through it, there's so much. I spoke about how our main character is a cartographer. Everything he writes, there's like liner notes and his illustrations and his diagrams and how the world works and how he remembers things. And it's really interesting, really fascinating, and it gives a real look into T.S.'s mind, into how he's handling things as well. And then sometimes there's just some really big illustration. So it really feels like you are going through this kid's diaries or his notebook that he keeps with him. And it's a really nice sensation almost. There's 3 parts to this, and they always do like this big illustration. It's a it's an interesting kind of self-reflective, unique story. I haven't read this many like footnotes in a novel since Discworld, which I obviously do read very often, but that's not typically the case. You don't typically get footnotes in books, and thus it's a pretty interesting experience. I believe this is the first and perhaps only of this author's works. It's very different to what I expected, I think, and I liked it a lot. There is, of course, a little bit of like fantastical, not quite realistic elements to it. I don't think an actual 12-year-old would make it all the way to Washington from Montana on his own, like in 3 days or a week or whatever it was, without his parents calling the police and saying our child is missing. He gets into some actual trouble. He does not rock up at the Smithsonian well. He doesn't rock up like it was super easy. He was train hopping, and he gets attacked by a delirious homeless man who thinks that he's possessed by the devil. There's a lot of stuff going on in this book. It's not amazing. Like, it's not a must read. I don't think everyone has to read it, but I do think if that sounds interesting to you, if you like YA, if you are interested in just kind of how the story is laid out, then I would encourage you to try it. I don't know. I got mine from the book bazaar, so it was only $2. It was a good investment for me because I didn't pay that much. And I see, Luke, it is 1:05, so you are very obviously on the East Coast. You're up very late, sir. I'm not up that late, not quite yet, and I can't really afford to be up that late because I have work tomorrow. But yeah, so that was the first book that I read this week. The second book, as per usual, whenever I read a book from my personal library, I then follow it up with a library book that I've borrowed, whether that be whatever. And I think, as per usual, as per expected for me, currently, I read another Pratchett Discworld book. This is Unseen Academicals. So this is one of the later books in the Discworld series. It follows Unseen University as they try to reclaim the glorious sport of football, aka soccer for us, not in Europe and South America and the entirety of the world aside from the US and Australia. So it's about soccer. And I've said it before that, like, soccer is one of those sports that it's not for me. Like, I understand it. Like, I know how it's played. I've even watched some games, but it's not anything I could personally ever get invested in. Not for me. And even and I spoke about this in the sports manga podcast. Like, that's one of the sports that it really there's a lot of manga about soccer, but they're not ones that appeal to me personally because I don't care about soccer comparatively to the nation of Japan. I just don't care about soccer. And in saying this, despite this being about soccer or football, whichever you prefer, it's not really about that. It's more so there's obviously some very obvious satire on the football or soccer culture and fans, especially the fallout after games of fans, and how even if it's not a great experience, it's sort of a traditional experience and personal experience. But we mainly focus on, like with all of Discworld, we focus on particular characters, and so it is more of a character piece rather than just about football and learning the rules of football and all this other stuff. Like, it's not that. I will read the back of the book for you all because I think that will give you a better understanding than my terrible explanation. So, as the blurb says, football has come to the ancient city of Ankh-Morpork, and now the wizards of Unseen University must win a football match without using magic, so they're in the mood for trying everything else. This is not going to be a gentleman's game. The prospect of the big match draws in a street urchin with a wonderful talent for kicking a tin can, a maker of jolly good pies, a dim but beautiful young woman who might just turn out to be the greatest fashion model there has ever been, and the mysterious Mr. Nutt. And no one knows anything much about Mr. Nutt, not even Mr. Nutt. As the match approaches, 4 lives are entangled and change forever. Because the thing about football, the important thing about football, is that it's not just about football. Here we go, here we go, here we go. And I think that's a pretty, good explanation. It's one that, even if you're not into football or soccer, it's still fun. Like, even when it gets to the game, it's not really like a proper football, like soccer game. There's some shenanigans going on, and it like with all of these novels, it's got a fantasy type style of stuff as well. So it was a fun time. It was also a pretty quick read. I mean, it's 500 pages, but Pratchett, for me at least, goes pretty quickly. They're very fast-paced novels. They're very humorous. Mr. Nutt, are one of the characters mentioned. He definitely steals the show. He's one of the main characters, and he is this character here on the cover. Really nicely illustrated book. But yeah, Ren, I am with you in that I don't think I may have watched, no, I never did. So many years ago now at this point, I did volunteering in Costa Rica, and whilst we were there, there was a very important football match in Costa Rica between their national team and some other Central American team. I can't remember. I don't know. It was a while ago. And so we were invited Christmas Day to watch this match. And I was like, not on TV, not in person. I was just like, oh my God, this is so boring. Then that's probably the most soccer I've ever watched in my life. And it was not too much fun. And every time it was commercial break, they'd flick to the bullfighting. And then that was just depressing. So yeah, moral of the story is I'm not a big fan of soccer. And Lucas said that you're a fan of Berserk and Gantz and Oh My Goddess. Personally, not my typical favorite series. I read a little bit. Berserk wasn't really for me. Gantz I've yet to get to, but not probably one of my favorites. And Oh My Goddess is classic. Slow burn, the most classic of slow burns, but again, not one that I've personally come across, or well, I know of it. I know the whole idea of it. I just have never read it, and I probably won't unless I get it from my library. But they're all very popular, and for good reason. I always find that even if things are not my taste, I'm always happy when people are really big fans of things and can enjoy those things. So finally, probably the only thing people are interested in, but I did read one manga. I managed to sneak it in just before I had to leave for our showcase today. So it had to be something quick, something easy, something not too involved as well. I didn't want to get super invested into a volume and then just kind of get stuck. That is a good point. So Luke says he likes to play sport but not watch it. I'm not the most athletic type, but I do find playing sports a lot more enthralling versus watching them. It depends. I mean, it depends on the sport. I don't think I'd ever be able to figure skate or things of that nature. I could never be a gymnast. But it is incredibly impressive what those people are able to do, what those athletes can achieve. But yeah, cricket's so boring to watch. Soccer is so boring to watch. Football, Aussie rules is fun. It's fun. But for the manga, we have the second volume of the All Ages manga released by Seven Seas. This is Nicola traveling around the Demon's World by Asaya Miyanaga. So this is, I don't know how many people are reading this. It's a fun, sweet little series. It's also interesting in that it's printed with brown ink. I'm not sure if you can tell, but it's not actually black and white. But this is one I picked up this series because it sounded interesting, but also it's from Harta magazine, which is my absolute favorite manga magazine around ever. Like, so many of my favorite titles come from Harta, most notably all of Karamori's works, all of Akihire's works came from Harta or its predecessor, Fellows. Other stuff that I can't think of right now, Hachiko and Michikin, and yeah, there's a couple of stuff there's quite a few series that are running in it right now that we do get in English. But yeah, so this is one of their titles, one of the series that runs in the magazine, and it's about a little girl called Nicola who is a human who can do magic, or she's a little witch, who's found herself in the demon's world, and she's traveling along with this demon who's sort of like a traveling merchant called Simon, and he is helping her kind of discover the demon's world and learn. Hi, Ethan. Welcome to the stream. And Rin, you watched Paul? How did you like it? Were you very impressed? We had our showcase, and oh my goodness, some of the girls. It's so impressive. I don't wish it was me. Wish it was me. We had a lot of fun with our routine, but man, there's some stuff that people can do that is crazy. But so this is the story of Nicola, as I said, traveling around with Simon. It's a very episodic manga. There's 5 or 6 chapters in here, each like pretty self-contained, and they just travel around and meet new people and new places and find things out. In this manga, Nicola meets Simon's father, who is also a traveling merchant, and she's getting some clues as to her mother may have done a similar trip before she gave, when she was young, before she gave birth to Nicola. So yeah, it's really, really sweet, really cute. It's not I'm pretty sure it's not super duper long. This one was licensed pretty early into its run, so these 2 volumes, I think there might be 3 volumes in Japan as of right now, but it's also got the kind of scratchy, I don't know, folklore, fairy tale-y style of art, and I love it. I love it. I'm glad that Rin, you're reading it too. It's super sweet and cute and just lighthearted and fantastical, and a fantastic journey. And I've talked about before in the past my kind of, not issues, but sometimes I'm not always a fan of manga that is just like father figure and cute child traveling together, right? I like a lot of, I don't want to say I'm cynical, because I do like stuff like Barakamon, and I did like Somali and the forest spirit to some extent, not as much as other people did, but it's fine. Like, I think it's cute and it's magical and whatever. But I often have a problem with just cloyingly cute, sweet children. A lot of the time it makes me, they push manga and create manga like this in Japan because they know that they have a falling birthright and they're trying to get nerds to have children by tricking them into thinking they'll be really cute. And it's male nerds because it's always a father figure, a guy who like has picked up this small girl child. And it's, yeah, maybe that's me being cynical. I'm also like, I wasn't really a fan of Sweetness and Lightning. It was fine, but not like I wouldn't read it again. Whereas Nicola does have a really great visual style. It has a really fun world. It has a lot of really fun stuff. And Rin Rin knows that I'm tired. I'm tired of the father figure. And it's not even like, it won't even be like, I don't know. I see fathers of like, especially young kids who are 5 or 6 or 10 years old. They should be in their late 20s, early mid 30s. But these guys who like pick up random stray kids, for the most part, are like 23. And I'm like, that is so young. Don't try to push 20 something, like 21-year-olds to start having kids, because you are still a baby as a 23-year-old or a 21-year-old. But yeah, we don't really have that issue with Nicola. Nicola is a very strong character on her own. She's very likable. Her magic and her discover worlds and meet new people is really likable. And maybe that's me being hypocritical, but I like this a lot, and I think more people should read it. And Simon's dad is so cute. Look at him. Aw, he's like a little penguin guy. Yeah. So check it out if you haven't tried Nicola traveling around the demons world. Also, like, it says demons. If you're super religious or like put off about at that, it's not like the religious iconography of demons. It's more like monsters or whatever. It's not sacrilegious, but also I'm not like the most devout person, so maybe I'm the wrong person to ask. But it is really good for kids. It's not going to scare them, and for adults, it's a fun, easy time to just hang out. And for me, it was good because I was like, I know that I'm going to feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and then I got to book it out of here to get to the rehearsal on time. But yeah, that is literally all that I read this week. Not a huge amount. And this is my shortest wrap-up as of right now. To answer your question, Luke, do I plan to read Meisou no Koku manga or buy it? I am definitely going to read it. I probably, like with a lot of Rumiko Takahashi's stuff, I may just hope that my library gets it, because as much as I respect her and I've enjoyed a lot of her works, I don't actually own any of Takahashi's works, just because I haven't read Meisou no Koku, so this may be incorrect, and people who are more informed, please correct me. But her series tend to be very long, especially the romantic comedies or the romantic action comedies, stuff like Inuyasha and Ranma. They're very repetitive, which is not a bad thing. Like, there's a reason she is so amazing and such an influence in shonen manga. And I do want to read Meisou no Koku because it is outside of her typical shonen fare of the romantic action comedy. But I do think, like with all of them, that I would want to try it out first before I buy it, just because longtime viewers know that I tend to, hopefully, like, it's always my goal to buy and collect and keep series that I know that I love and or I know I will love and want to reread, re-experience over and over again. I mean, it's hard enough. I already have I have a very large collection. It's not a surprise. I have over 1,300 volumes. So, like, I'm already paring down from what I want to read to just what I am reading and buying, and hopefully having the library pick up the slack between those. Unfortunately, my library doesn't always have, everything that I want. But the great thing about Takahashi is, because she's so influential, so much of her stuff is available in libraries. So normally you just have to request it, and there will be a copy floating around somewhere. And so, yeah, Rin has said that Mao, her current series, is good. She's returning to horror with that. Mermaid Saga. Is it Mermaid Saga? That's only 3 volumes. I think like I would be really interested in reading that. I know it's getting collectors or fancy like omnibus editions soonish as well. There's just, for me, like there's so much manga coming out constantly, right? I think this is a conundrum that we as a community, and especially on YouTube for collectors and that, is that there's so much always coming out. Just this today, or / last night, / whatever your time zone is, we had J Novel Club with their licensing announcements. So if you're into light novels, that's sort of interesting news. And there's a really great pickup for me. Like they got the oh my god, Apothecary Diaries, which is a series that I know a lot of people want, including myself. The manga's been licensed, and I look forward to it. It's right in my wheelhouse, but there's already, like, I don't actually even follow that many light novels, but I'm already overwhelmed from the light novels that I do read. And then all of the manga that I collect, as soon as I finish a series, there's always something new to buy. There's always something new debuting. And there's so many of those debuts, there's so many of those series that are interesting. Personally, like stuff that I feel like I will be really interested in. Yen Press had a really great licensing event just a couple days ago, and they got Boys Run the Riot, which is a series that I've been wanting ever since I discovered it existed. And so like it's a never-ending cycle. So unfortunately, for a series that I'm mildly interested in but aren't super high priority, like a lot of Takahashi stuff, it kind of falls to the wayside. And it's not that I never want to read it or that I never will collect it. I'll never buy it. But it's usually a larger investment, especially for Takahashi stuff. And also, it's just, I feel also like sometimes I may read it and I may enjoy it, but will I still read it and enjoy it in 10 years? And that's, I mean, it's a testament that all of her stuff is still so popular, right? But I feel like I was never an Inuyasha kid. I wasn't really into anime when that was popular. I didn't have Adult Swim or like Toonami or anything when that was airing. We know this. I'm not really a nostalgic anime fan like a lot of people of my generation. Just because I didn't watch anime when I was a kid / teen. But so for me, I've now just recently been discovering her stuff. I still haven't watched Inuyasha or read Inuyasha. I've watched some of Ranma. I've watched half of Ranma, and it's fun. I love it. It's a great time, but it's also really repetitive. And I've heard great things about Maison Koku, but I just can't see myself investing in it as of this moment. If I had infinite money and infinite space, I had a house large enough to house all of my books forever after, then of course I would definitely be interested and probably pounce on it. And if I also didn't have to work and I could just read all day, then hell yeah. But I've had to prioritize my time, my space, my money. And right now, it's not really at the top of the list, unfortunately. If my library gets it, heck yeah, I am borrowing it out though. I'm interested to see if One Pound Gospel gets some interest, like re-interest. So because I know some people do really love it. It's only 2 or 3 volumes, something along those lines. And with this current renaissance of Rumiko Takahashi stuff, I wouldn't be super surprised if they wanted to just chuck it all into one omnibus. But it's also not a heavy hitter in the same way that Maison Koku or Urusei Yatsura or Ranma is, or Inuyasha is, of course. But I mean, we're also getting Mermaid Saga, so we'll see. We'll see. Now that she's in the Eisner Hall of Fame, that we may be seeing more of her stuff and getting reprinted and putting into print for the first time. To answer your question about the Emma anime, yes, I did. They're shipping those out very soon, and I cannot wait. I have both seasons coming to me on Blu-ray. That's been a couple of years, but that's pretty expected for this sort of Kickstarter. So I'm happy to finally have it in my hands soon. Yeah, okay, thank you for 4 volumes. I wasn't entirely sure because again, I'm not that the most informed when it comes to Takahashi's works. And although it is only 15 volumes for Maison no Koku, it is still like I have trouble finding room for like 5-volume series, let alone stuff over 15 or over. We know that I'm not the biggest fan. I like 15 is a sweet spot, and like never say never, but I just right now Maison no Koku is on the list to try, but not necessarily on the list to buy. Yeah, Rin, I'm of that same like I feel it's not that I've bought less manga. I've bought manga, but I have kind of pared down. I've kind of had to make it so that for stuff I pre-order, it's been debuts for new series and then like finales for other series, ongoing series that I've been following. So I'm hoping to get the last couple volumes of O Maidens in Your Savage season because that's finished now. I just finished Blank Canvas. I just finished something else. I can't remember. There's been a couple series ending. Silver Spoon was another one. I'm trying to actively collect and finish the finished series that I've been buying. Bloom Into You is another one that I need to get a couple of volumes for before buying more debuts, right? Meanwhile, all of my other stuff that's like ongoing, catching up, it's really been like, okay, you are high priority, you are really low priority. So if I get if I get that, it will be in a sale. Or I'll find someone like on Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree or eBay who's selling it. It's not a need to get or wait until the price is dropped. Whereas stuff like, I mean, A Bride Story is one that I pre-order like immediately. Requiem of the Rose King, Finland Saga to a certain extent. There's just we know. Oku is another one. Like as soon as the volume is out, or as soon as the volume's been scheduled, I will pre-order it. But some of the other stuff, it's just like, well, I'm gonna wait a while. I mean, even Nicola, it took a while for me to get this volume. Not that I dislike it. Obviously, I do really love it. But it's just sometimes you gotta budget your money. Hopefully everyone who buys manga is budgeting because it's yeah. But I will say, I mean, that's the other thing is if you're into multiple hobbies, it can be very hard to figure out like where you want to spend your money. And manga can kind of fall to the wayside if you're not super invested in a fandom or a series anymore. Or there's nothing like big and new and interesting that you're super involved with, and you might want to get into music or might get into a different hobby. I don't know. What are hobbies that people have? Video games and stuff like that. And bandoms and whatever. So like I get it. I'm manga and anime is still my main hobby, aside from my various other extracurricular activities that aren't to do with being a nerd on the internet. And if my camera would focus, it doesn't matter. We've given up. We've given up on the focusing. But yeah, there's, and I think being currently, because of the state of the world, a lot of places are still quarantining. Thankfully, not where I am, but a lot of places people are stuck at home. They're having to become reinvested in their hobbies, or discover or rediscover new hobbies. And so when you spread yourself over different projects and different interests, it can be hard to figure out what you want to prioritize versus what you can just kind of easily thing. But yeah. Anticipated debuts, finished series, and high priority. I don't even know how many ongoing series I'm technically following. I probably Oku's almost finished. A Bride Story, Nicola. Oh my gosh. Couple Yuri stuff, like A Tropical Fish Yearns for Snow, and Kase-san and Yamada. Why is this all going so weird? Requiem of the Rose King, Land of the Lustrous. What's the other one? There's another volume of Pokemon to come out still. Haikyuu still ongoing. Not Vagabond. Vinland Saga still ongoing. There's just, and that's not even, I can't even think of half of them, honestly. There's so much. Oh, Phantom Tales of the Night, my favorite. There's just a lot of stuff, and there's also so much exciting stuff coming out, and I'm never gonna complain, but I also wish I had more time and money and space. But I think that's an ongoing issue always. To answer this question, I have read the first omnibus of I'm a Hero. Yes, which is 2 or 3 volumes. It's a 2-in-1, I think, or 3-in-1. Who knows? I'm past it. I don't remember. It was fine. Another one that I haven't read a huge amount of it. It was a strong start. I've heard it's had kind of a weaker ending, maybe a looser ending, or not as strong, as poignant, as in your face as the beginning was. I think if you like a zombie action horror, it certainly does it well. But again, not one that's super high on my priority to personally buy, but if a library in my area got more of it, I would definitely check it out, if just to say that I've read it. Thank you, Aisha. I really appreciate it. It did go really well. I don't know how much, because the camera doesn't want to focus on me at all, but I don't know how much glitter you can see on my face. I also have, okay, I'm not going to show you maybe. This is a bruise. That's not glitter, but all here is like glitter everywhere. So we have glitter on our costumes, which is why we have glitter everywhere now. Me, and the girls who I was doing our particular routine with. So much glitter. I'd already done my face up for photos, because I got those done today as well. Poll photos, which were very exciting, very fun. But the recital was good. It was quick, easy. Oh my goodness, some of the girls, so impressive. They're so impressive, and it's a testament, I think, because when people think of pole dancing and pole dance, you think of it as being very sexy and like a very particular body type, and a very, obviously people think of strippers and all of that stuff, but it's a testament to the studio that I go to personally. I think that anyone of any shape, size, age as well can come and have fun and be incredible, like amazing. The athleticism with some of the ladies there is wow, like beyond I think what people think of stripping, or we don't strip, but of pole dance. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of pain and suffering and bruises, as to which my entire body is testament. I have so many bruises. But it's fun. It's a really, really fun time. And I'd be interested. I mean, wasn't I put out for the Olympics to be included in the Olympics? That would be a very interesting event to watch, and I would definitely watch that one. But yeah, I do. If you are in an area that's not currently having to lock down because of COVID, and or even if you don't have to lock down, but you should probably be locking down because you're in an area that's still affected with COVID, check out your local pole studio. Again, men, women, all ages, all, like, if you go to a good one, regardless of your size, regardless of your flexibility, your fitness, pole can actually, you'd be surprised in what you can do. And it's also one that really helps build your whole body strength, your core, your arms, your legs, everything. But yeah, they absolutely are athletes, and I cannot call myself an athlete because I'm not nearly to the level as some as the intermediate. I'm definitely still a beginner. But yeah, it's an incredible thing to watch. Even if you're not, like, even if you don't know what's hard and what's not, it's just impressive. It's impressive. And if you feel like I could do that, I dare you. And then we will see how much skin will be ripped off of your legs. But yeah, so that's it. It's a pretty quick and easy wrap up this week. I didn't read a lot, as I said. I only read my 2 novels and then my singular manga because I had other priorities this week. I did want to get through those books because it took a little while to get through the T.S. Spivet book. Not because it was difficult, but it was just like a bit all over the place. As I said, it's very natural in reading, like you're reading some person's field notes or personal diary, but it does mean that it's kind of, you're jumping around the page and like reading and having a lot of asides and a lot of intermissions and interspersed little informational bits, whilst comparatively the Discworld book just absolutely flew, despite being basically the same length, I think, maybe even a little bit longer. And that is, again, a testament to pacing and tone. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry. I'm sorry there wasn't a huge amount for me to talk about, but hopefully I answered your questions. Hopefully this was somewhat interesting. Aisha, never apologize for being late or not showing up at all. I always appreciate when you can make it, but I know people have lives, right? And it's also early for you over there. I totally understand. You don't worry about it. But this week, this coming week, I'm going to be resting. So, resting after my showcase. Not pushing myself as much as I was the last 2 weeks. So hopefully I have more to talk about that I've read. I do have some manga stuff that I'm wanting to read, so hopefully I've got some library manga. You can't see it because it's not in the back on the shelves there, but it's over there. You just can't see it. I've got some clamp stuff, so I know you guys are very excited about that. We will talk about that when we get to that. But I also have pretty popular shoujo that I've loaned out, borrowed, that's the word. I've got another volume of Slam Dunk over there, and I've got fantasy action drama seinen thing People have called it like, oh, a berserk light, which I don't know means if I'm gonna hate it or not. I don't hate berserk. I just don't. I have no compulsion to read any more than the 4 volumes that I did. We know this. This is not a controversial statement for me. I know you guys are keen for the clamp. I will not let you down, but I may have to buy the last volume of that digitally. If my camera would focus. I don't know why it does this. I'm literally not doing. I just keep my hands here forever? That might be the issue. But I do have a clamp title to talk about, and then I will finish that. I need to probably buy the last volume digitally because my library doesn't have it, and I believe it's an out of print volume. And I'm not gonna buy a clamp title for my shelf. I refuse, right? Like, I'm not going to. This is gonna be the case until we get those fancy collector's editions of Holic, right? My one downfall, my one hubris, being too into Holic and loving the yokai weird, amazing world that is Holic. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching. I do always really appreciate all of you who come hang out with me for this period. I hope that I'll have more to talk to you about next week, and more stuff that you may be interested in. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. I don't know what it'll be. Maybe the podcast. Oh, we haven't recorded it yet, but I feel like we're doing that this week. Who knows? We'll have to figure it out. And I should have a first impressions video up. I'm not going to make any promises. I haven't filmed it yet, but I've written the information down to film it, so we'll see. We'll see. But thanks. Bye, everyone, and have a great rest of your day, great rest of your weekend, your evening, whatever it may be. Have a wonderful time. And I think just being fuzzed out, totally out of focus, is the perfect allegory for the ending to this. Bye, guys.